Racheal, what really intrigues me about talking to you is we've been doing this for 8 years. And as you probably know from being in the space, there aren't a whole lot of women in this space, which kind of just drives me crazy because every time I deal with a woman project manager on a job site, or women are better at business than men. Let me just say that. So I want I'm really curious behind kind of how you got in this space. So let's start off and kind of, if you want to just introduce yourself and your company name, and then kind of a little bit of background on how you got into the drone space to begin with.
My name is Racheal Brady. I'm the founder of the Analytical Moose, which is a drone and GIS company here in California. I spent 13 years with CAL FIRE, which is our state fire department. I started out in dispatch, and then I moved on to the GIS side. And then in January of 2020, I decided I was gonna go start my own business. And about that time, COVID also happened.
Nice.
So, if my conclusion at this moment, if you can make a business run when starting with COVID, you're going to be okay in the end, right?
Yes.
So, I actually got into drones through my GIS background. I love the high quality imagery that drones provide. And so that's kind of how I've morphed my business model into incorporating drones into the workflow.
So I know just the bare bones about GIS just because of through Drone Deploy and the basic stuff that we do. And I know we're probably missing a big opportunity, but just for the layperson out there, what is GIS? What does GIS stand for? What is the basics of GIS?
So GIS stands for Geographic Information Systems. And the easiest way that I describe it to everybody is I make maps. So Google Earth, like I describe the drone imagery, I'm like, think of a Google Earth image. And that's what I'm creating, but it's live and in much better detail.
So before drones came around, what was the go-to how did you make maps before drones were around?
So it was like based off of the satellite imagery. So that just the existing imagery services that are out there. And I mean, they only have a certain spatial resolution. So if you want to, as I joke about counting leaves on a roof, that there's not that quality of imagery available unless you want to pay a lot of money. So drones, if you have, depending on the size of your project, I think for one of my customers, I've covered just under 1,000 acres. So we'll have a very detailed 1,000-acre map that they can literally provide to not only the other elements that they're trying to analyze. So we have tree experts and different things that are all trying to answer the questions that are relevant to their silo. So that drone imagery gives us that ability to analyze at that higher level, more detail.
So since drones started, it's probably has it revolutionized the GIS world? Is it completely revolutionized what's happening in the GIS world?
So we're lagging behind. So that was so it seems like there's drone people and there's GIS people, and they haven't came together yet. So enter Racheal.
Yes. Got it.
And I'm like, guys, we can fly drones. We can go in the field and have fun, and then we can come back and process it. It's going to be great.
So it's probably a similar model then with the mentality of the people and the old age of some of the people, and it's just old school. So it's probably very similar to the construction industry, where they just don't quite get yet. We've been doing it Racheal, we've been doing this since 1894. We've been doing it this way. They don't actually come out and say that, but what's the biggest obstacles? Is it just that? It's just time to pass and the younger people to kind of get what's going on and why they should be doing this?
Absolutely, 100%. So we were impacted by the Zog fire here in California last September, October. And so right after the fire, it was said to be caused by PG&E. So a bunch of lawyers came to the neighborhood, right? So you have all these lawyers running around, and before that, I had posted on my Instagram feed of, if you guys need post-fire pictures of your property, video, imagery, just call me. You guys, like, this is my neighborhood. Like, you call me, I will come do it for you for free. Like, there will be no money exchanged. Like, I'm here for you. I like for insurance, like to show their insurance that they had total losses, that their trees are gone, that all these things have happened, right? It's to help them document. So the lawyers came in, and then one of them reached out to me and asked, hey, we'd like to, we love what you're doing. Can we pay you to do it on our behalf? And I said, sure, absolutely. Yeah. Right? Yeah. So I ended up flying for one of the lawyers. So every property that they signed up that had losses, I flew the property in high detailed resolution and provided them imagery. And so it was a way for their experts to have current imagery of what the property looked like, and they could compare that to pre-fire imagery from the satellites. And then it also provided them a detailed map to lay down on the table when they went to mediation or if they end up in court.
Got it.
So and like that lawyer was very open to it. And then some of the other lawyers are like, well, why would we pay for that? We can, get it through satellites. And it's like, well, it's not the same resolution. So I can take you down and you can see the destruction at a very detailed level versus a very pixelated level that you get through the satellite imagery.
Got it. So this is a learning thing for me. So GIS kind of covers many industries. I mean, GIS can be used anywhere.
Literally anywhere. Got
it. So we're in the world of construction. So can you talk about the GIS in the construction world? Is that different in some way, or you're just getting a better view of the site in the construction site than the same thing just on a construction site?
Yes. So one of the things that you can do is the detailed imagery. So you can lay out arrow points and you can have detailed imagery up to, I think it's like 1 centimeter of accuracy. So if you're doing a lot of land movement and flow, then you can go into great detail and show how you're changing the elevation on your job site. And then you can also monitor the construction over time. I think that's what we've been doing with some of those projects that I've been flying for you guys, is that monitoring of the project over time and being able to show the progress from when it starts to when it finishes.
We've been doing this for 8 years. And what we're seeing in the construction space is the project managers, the superintendents, they all, if you were to ask them what does a drone do, they'll tell you, well, it takes pretty pictures on the job sites. And they see these pictures from, in their mind as well, let me send the drone up, we'll get a picture from the north facing south, east facing west. We'll get some basic pictures to turn in for our Friday morning meeting or what have you. I've been trying to get them to understand this is so much more than pictures. It's so much more than just that view. What are they missing as far as from the GIS side that we're not taking advantage of? What's, in your opinion, what's the biggest thing missing that these construction guys could be taking advantage of with the GIS and these high-res maps that a picture or a 30-second video is not gonna give them?
Well, like the high-res mapping is like, not only do you have that Google Earth picture, but then you can do your elevations. You can show how you've impacted or how you met your environmental requirements. It's not just the showing of the construction, right? It's also how did you meet your environmental requirements that are on your job site? And you can show that you did because your runoff is going right. Your a high resolution DEM can show that you had your proper runoffs, that you've done everything that you've needed to do to meet those requirements. There's a lot of confusion, I think, in this space, even internally for us, having done this for 8 years. Do we need, in today's day and age, do we need to have ground control points? Do we need to have a PTK? Is that stuff all required? Or can we go out on a job site with a Mavic 2 Pro and just fly it, upload stuff to drone deploy, and have usable data for our clients? Or is there more to it than that? If it's a one-off, so this is how I describe it. If it's a one-off map, you can usually get away without the ground control points. If you want to be able to compare things over time, you need your ground control points. It's the different, so like I fly vineyards in Southern Oregon. So if I want to compare the rows every week when I go to fly, I have to have my ground control points in line, or else the corner plant, it goes from being over here to over here to over here to over here. And granted, it's not like when you're up a little ways, it's not visible, but when you're down trying to do precise analysis to compare this leaf to this leaf to this leaf over time, then that is that moment where you do need to have it. So with the construction side, if you're flying over and over again, then yes, the ground control points need to be in place so that your corners of your building, as you time lapse across, are always in the same corner and they don't shift around on you.
So have you flown, besides the stuff you do, have you flown? Do you have a lot of experience doing construction sites?
I don't have as much with the construction sites. A lot of my stuff has been post-fire assessments and the vineyard analysis. There's definitely opportunities in this space, and really any space. Like, I mean, think of you use your map to go everywhere, right? So if you can give better imagery and precision, like it just goes so far.
And what about the PTK or these drones that got built in? Is that necessary if you were giving advice to a construction company that they were buying a drone or hiring someone to do stuff for them? Would they need RTK, or can they do what they need to do with throwing down ground control points and flying a Phantom or a Mavic? I
think it all really just depends on where they want to spend their money, right? So the RTK drone itself takes, I think, a little bit more finesse because you have your ground station, and it takes a little bit more finesse. So if you have that ability versus I can just throw out my arrow points, throw them on the ground, they charge from the sun. And so, it doesn't take rocket science per se.
Okay.
Right. But with the RTK drones, they take a little bit more finesse. So I think that's really it just depends on the level of experience of it, I think it goes back to risk versus gain for construction companies. Where do they want to spend their time? Where do they get their return on investment? And so is it easier for them to have somebody come in and fly for them? Or is it easier to have somebody on the job site fly for them? How advanced is that person that's flying on the job site? Do they get too niche? Like all these things, I think it's a longer conversation than I think that can be had in, a couple minutes.
Got it. So you bring up another thing. So we're both what are considered to be drone service providers. We get hired to provide these drone services for clients. So without being biased, because that's the space we're in, where do you see things as far as do it yourself versus the percentage of people out there, and what are your thoughts or recommendations to people as far as doing it yourself versus the benefits of hiring a drone service provider? You don't have to worry about all the FAA and the training and the insurance. And what are your thoughts on it being as objective as possible to do it yourself versus hiring a drone service provider, the benefits, the pros and cons?
So I think it really is, it's a risk versus gain, right? Do you see yourself as a company doing your own analysis in GIS, or do you just want a product that you say, hey, I need somebody to come fly this and I need this product, and then you walk away from it, right? I think that's how I look at it. It's that moment of how deep do you want to go in drones? Like people will buy a drone, right, and fly it in a circle and call themselves a drone pilot, right? But we know that's not accurate. So it really, do you want to spend the time? Do you want to do it correctly? Do you want to, there's a lot of time, blood, sweat, and tears that goes into this. And and I think the construction companies have to decide, do they want to take away from what they're good at, or do they want to hire somebody that's already good at it? It's like a general contractor, right? They hire out the HVAC system, or they hire out the roof, or they hire out these elements because they're not the best at it, right? There's people who specialize in that. So it's no different with drones. Not to say that general contractor can't do the roof, right? He might be good at roofs. He might like to do roofs. So he might always do the roofs on his house. I've known a couple contractors like that. But it's no different with drones. It's just another element of, do they want to be able to do it themselves, or do they want to hire the professional? Where is their risk versus gain?
Yeah, and there's something about the fun factor of flying a drone, that the superintendent says, oh, I got a drone, or someone else on site says, well, I can do that for you, boss, because it's a fun thing to do. But like you said, there's a difference between having fun and going out and flying and getting these pictures, and then what do you do with those pictures, and who's going to make the video for you on the team, who's going to analyze the data on the, it's so much more than just the fun factor of going out and be able to fly a drone. That there's so much more past that. So
I think that's where people get lost all the time. It's not, I mean, yeah, I can go fly a drone in a circle and take some pictures for you. And I mean, I can hand it to my niece and nephew in the room next to me and be like, go take some pictures, and they'll fly around and use a whole battery, right?
Yep.
But they might not have anything that's really usable to be able to sell to be able to sell why you're good at your construction, right? But you know, when you hire a professional to help you with that process, we in essence guarantee that they're going to get what they need to be successful.
And as we're talking out loud, there's literally two parts to this. There's capturing the data, and then what do you do with the data afterwards? So what do you do? Do you use the data do you clean the pictures up? Do you use the data to make videos? Do you use the data to make a panorama? Do you use the data to make a map? How do you analyze it? So there's really two parts to.
And each one of those things that you just said, the panorama, you know, the map, they all have different requirements, right? So, you know,
the skill set.
Yeah. And like, not everybody has those skill sets. And that's part of the problem too, right? Like I can go take some pretty pictures, but somebody else might be really good at video. And it goes back to that hiring the like, not to say that the person on the job site couldn't be good at it, right? We're not saying that. We're just saying, is that what you want them to learn to spend? Is that what you want to spend your money on teaching them, right? They're really good at swinging a hammer. Do you want them to fly the drone?
Yeah.
Because now they're not swinging the hammer.
Correct. Or driving the equipment, or operating the crane, or managing the safety aspect of the site. So what do you like when you're not working? Do you like to fly the drone when you're not working? What kind of things do you like to shoot when you're not working? What's your favorite thing to shoot with the drone?
So I love landscapes. So I used to do landscape photography, and so I love landscapes. So like Montana is the best case scenario for this stuff. So like I took my mom up to Montana for like a week, and it was this fall, and the colors were absolutely gorgeous. And I had the time of my life finding rivers and getting beautiful shots. So that's what I do on my time off.
Nice.